Hey everyone, it's Kai, and today we're going to look at Festival Collection. There's 10 new cards being released in that, and basically we're just going to rank them, alright? We've got, you see, 1 to 10. That means 1 is the best card released, and 10 is like the worst. I think it's going to be pretty hard ranking the last bottom few, because they're kind of equally bad. But, you know, Festival Collection, pretty quick. It's just been pretty much 1 month since they released the first Boosters Pack. But, you know, this is kind of like a reprint set for the start decks to add some, like, hollows to it. To make you go bling bling, right, on those sets. But at the same time, they add some value to it by releasing some new cards, so you know you don't feel bad in just buying a reprint set. But overall, you know, 10 new cards, they might change things around quite a bit. So let's jump into it. Let's start off with this card, right? This one is a new Dragon Empire card. It is called Rough Eating Dragon Hungersaurus. Now, what he does is continuous regard circle effect. During your turn, this unit gets power plus 5,000, and if your opponent has a front row regard, this unit cannot attack the Vanguard. So this is a pretty bad card. You know, it's pretty bad. It's like it gets 5k, but the downside to it is extremely terrible, right? So I think it's somewhere down in the bottom. It offers literally no value to any Dragon Empire deck currently, right? Because Overdress Nirvana doesn't really have any slots in its grade 2 lineup to run this card, and it doesn't really retire at all. So you know the front row might have something, and you can't really get rid of it. So it's just bad. And then Eugene, right? Eugene actually retires things, right? But for Eugene to actually be able to retire 2, it needs another card. So you have Eugene's effect, you rest 2 to retire one of their front rows, and then another card willing to proc its skill to kill its the other front row. So then you can finally attack with this card at the Vanguard. So that seems like you need multiple cards to at least ensure this card being able to attack. That's pretty bad. Otherwise, this card is swinging into a regard circle, into that regard, and it's just like, it's bad, dude. It's really bad. Like, you could say that, okay, if you drop this card early, you can hit some nice numbers, but at the same time, you have to draw it early, and your opponent has to not commit cards in the front row. So it's just giving yourself less options is just not very good. So I think this is probably like 9 or 10, right? I mean, I'll put it for 9 for now, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to move it to a 10. The next one, let's take a look, is Maiden, right? So the key thing about this card is that it says, well, let's just go through the effect first. So, auto regard circle. When your unit with the overdress ability attacks, put this unit into the soul, choose one of your units with the overdress ability, and it gets power plus 5,000 until the end of turn. Now, this card, key effect is that it goes into the soul. The rest of it doesn't matter. If you play it in Nirvana, which is where you should be playing it because it runs overdress cards more than Eugene, then, you know, this adding itself to soul is great, because Nirvana currently has a soul issue. Use Virina's effect like once, and then you're done. You have to draw like more Nirvanas to Persona Ride in order to use more Virinas, right? So overall, this kind of solves your soul issue. But the real question is, did you even have a soul issue problem in the first place, right? If you don't have the soul for Virina, who cares? Who cares? The other problem is it's a 6k, so it boosting things doesn't really hit numbers against Vanguards nowadays. So let's say you boost a 10, it's hit 16, that's a 5k guard. 5k is a pretty easy to guard. You want to hit that nice, juicy 10k guard number, which a lot of decks have problems with. So you have to really boost something that gets power, which will be like a 15k hitter, and that will kind of go into like hit 21, but at the same time, you know, hitting 23 is even better, right? So if you want an 8k boost, that's good. If you boost like a grade 3, I guess that's pretty good. That is just normal numbers, but you're sacrificing like a 10k booster for this. And then against other cards, I guess when you run like the ride line where it has like Ryu, where it gets like 2k on attack, it hits 12 and 6 is a nice number. But, you know, overall, at the same time, like your 10k booster is a pretty nice number. So overall, like, are you willing to sacrifice your booster for like a kind of a weaker booster that hits numbers slightly less for increased ability to generate soul that you might or might not need, right? So I think this is kind of at least playable. It's at least playable, but kind of iffy. So let's put it up here at 5 for now. We'll change it a bit later, right? The next card we have is Diabolos Boys Jared. So this card's effect is act regard circle once per turn. Cost counterblast 1 and soul blast 1. Choose one of your units with the Diabolos in its card name, and it gets power 10k until the end of turn. And the second effect is, when this unit attacks, if you're in Final Rush, your opponent cannot intercept until the end of the battle. So this card is surprisingly okay. Its effect is very vanilla, but that vanilla effect is actually pretty workable, right? Bruce, we all know Bruce doesn't really use like counterblast much, so they can usually just run Brodies and things like that. But one problem with Bruce is that it doesn't really do a lot of, you know, power lines early, or, you know, push damage early, and this card just solves that problem. Right, so you use one counterblast, which is doesn't really matter. You use a soul, which kind of does matter, but you do have, like, Bruce does still have a lot of ways to soul charge, so that's not much of an issue. But if you play this down early, you can technically, on the Reguard circle, you push with it, you give yourself 10k. That's a really annoying card to guard against. So being able to generate that extra aggression early means that even if you're second, right? A lot of people say if Bruce goes second, it automatically loses. No, it doesn't. You just have to play aggressively. You have to play, you know, normal Vanguard. But this kind of lets you play unnormal Vanguard. It gives you 10k power for something, so you can kind of hit those numbers better and then push your opponent's damage quicker. So you only maybe just need one Final Rush turn to kill them rather than two. So this should be somewhere up here. This should be like a 3 or a 4, right? Third place or fourth place. Or the second mix is kind of nice. If you play like a Bruce Mirror and you make your opponent's Brodies not able to intercept, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, right? So yeah, this is like a 3 or 4, I think. All right. Next card we get is Degraded Aged Dragon. So effect is auto when this unit is placed on the Reguard circle. If your soul has 5 or more cards, discard a card from your hand, choose one of your opponent's back row Reguards, and retire it. This is like not needed, right? Does Bruce need retire? I don't think so, especially not back row retire. Does Barrow Magnus need retire? No, it doesn't. It doesn't, right? Because it field wipes every turn. So this doesn't really have much value. You want to run this in Bruce, which is like kind of maybe what it's designed for, but you don't have space for it, right? Bruce actually has some pretty decent cards at grade 1, so this has no space. At least it doesn't use counterblast, but it does use one hand, which is kind of hefty. But there's just no space for this. So unfortunately, Degraded Age is just like, it's somewhere in the bottom tier, right? Bottom tier. Next, let's take a look oh, this one is nice. Aurora Battle Princess Spark Limon. So this card is auto Reguard circle. When this unit attack hits, you choose up to 2 of your cards from your opponent's drop and imprison them in your prison. So this basically solves a lot of prison's issues, right? Because the problem with prison is that if your opponent plays around your prison limit, you basically don't do much. So this one adds that on hit pressure where they have to guard this, or they're grabbing 2 garbage cards from your prison, from your drop zone, and putting them in prison, and then you have to pay the cost to get these crappy cards out. So if your opponent has like 2 draw triggers or 2 crit triggers or whatever like that in their drop zone, this hits, those things are going into your prison, and your opponent will be like, do I really want to pay 1 counterblast or soul blast twice to get triggers out to like boost with or something like that? So adding that threshold, that like, you know, extra threshold to your prison means that then later on you'll definitely get those three prisons requirements very, very easily, and then from then on, like, you can use like your defensive cards, which require a certain amount of cards in prison. Because they're not going to get those cards out. They're not going to get those cards out. And your opponent is now forced to guard this card a lot of times, right? Most of the time. It's basically they have to guard this or your game plan goes so smooth, it's insane. So I think because basically all prison decks are going to need this is somewhere like a 2 or a 1. This is basically a 2 or 1. This is basically like a 3 or 4 of immediately in your prison deck. And it basically saves it from kind of obsolescence, right? Next we have is, what is this? Okay, this is Twin Press Smasher. So act Reguard circle once per turn, cost counterblast 1 and rest this unit. Choose one of your opponent's front row Reguards and retire it. So why do you need this, right? This is obnoxiously bad, right? You counterblast 1 and then you rest this unit. So you've minused 1 of your resources, and then you've rested itself, so it can't attack unless you move it to the back and place something else down. and then you retire one of your front row units. So it's technically not it's technically a +1, right? It's technically a +1, but does Brandgate even need this at all, right? Does Prison need this? No, right? Prison doesn't need this. Does Office need this? No, it really doesn't, right? It has a grade 3 that attacks an entire column. You don't have, like, I guess what you can do is you can put this behind Vanguard and like rest it every turn, and that could generate value, but you're using Counterblast for it, which is kind of not great value. You're like negating 5k shield every turn, or you're forcing your opponent to commit a card. So it's just, there's no spot where you can kind of put it in, is the biggest problem, and the effect is just not that amazing. So it's probably like a 7, or it's probably one of these bottom ones, right? It's one of these bottom ones. Next we have is Harp Bow of Heavenly Music Alpheon. This card is act Rearguard Circle once per turn. If you have 3 or more grade 3 units, cost Counterblast 1, and this unit gets power plus 5,000 until the end of turn. And if you Persona Road this turn, draw a card. So one big thing about this card is that you need to Persona Ride to get the draw. Otherwise, you're just CBing 1 to get 5k, which is pretty low value, right? It's pretty low value. But because you need to Persona Ride to be able to get the draw, it's like you need this card in your hand on the turn that you Persona Ride. So that's two things that is pretty bad. Of course, if you run something like Bastion or Keta in general, they have the order that draws 2, which is nice. And if you play Bastion, you have Alden, which draws 2. So you can kind of draw into your Persona Rides, you can kind of draw into this. So it's not that bad, but again, you still need that specific combo in order to generate that specific thing to happen. And at the same time, Keta has a lot of good quality grade 3s. So I think this is probably somewhere like a 6. Would it be a 4? Nah, I don't think it'd be a 4. I think it's a very low priority card. It's a very low priority card. All right. Next we have is, I'm getting covered here. Next we have is a gold geon. All right. So auto, when this unit is placed on the Rearguard Circle, cost Soul Blast 1 and call a grade 1 unit from your hand to the Rearguard Circle. And this unit called, and the unit called for this cost gets power plus 5,000 until the end of turn. So this is bad, dude. This is so bad. I want to run this in Bastion because you don't really have grade 1s to call, and you have to run this as a grade 2, so definitely not that. So you're running this in Hex Orb, but okay, the biggest problem with Keta, remember, is that it has no good grade 2s. Unfortunately, this is not one of the good grade 2s. You'd just rather run other stuff. So I wouldn't want to pay a soul to call a grade 1 from my hand just to give it 5k. It just seems super low value. Soul is actually a very valuable resource, so I'd rather just not run it. So to be fair, maybe it's not 10, but it's definitely on the bottom. It's definitely on the bottom. So, oh wow, is Alpheon going to like 4 or something like that? Okay, so this probably can go here, I think, and then this can like gold geon. Are we moving? Oh no, this is. These are so bad. These cards are just awful. I'll deal with the badness later. Let's move on to the next one. Next one we have is Hydra Rail Dragon. Now this card is pretty good. Let me move this up. So, auto Rearguard Circle. When this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, retire this unit. Choose a grade 3 unit card from your drop zone and put it into your hand. So, wow. I think this card is one of the best cards released in Festival Collection. It's either this or Limon, right? So both Stoichea decks kind of want this card because Zolga can kind of confirm Persona Rides, right? Because you can call the Zolga out from your drop zone and then bounce it back to your hand with the order. But Magnolia doesn't, and Magnolia really wants to Persona Ride. So this kind of adds that on-hit pressure that Magnolia would really want. Because, you know, your opponent has to guard this, but at the same time, you know, you make multiple attacks, so they have to really choose what they need to guard. But then once this goes through, you can Persona Ride, and then you can pop off again. So Hydra Rail really good, and then like something with again with Zolgar, you know, it has on-hit pressure, and if they hit, well, I confirm Persona right next to it. So this is, I think this is like a 1 or a 2, right? This is like between these two. Maybe I'm gonna swap them around, but this is a really, really good card, in my opinion. And then lastly, we have, here we go, is Sylvan Horned Beast Corsi. Now, this card is not amazing. Spoiler. So Cont, its effect is Cont. This card cannot be ridden or called other than to the back row center. It is a grade 1 15k though. So, it basically doesn't do anything into a grade 3, and then you have to give it an effect to attack from the back row. And it also means that your Vanguard can't be boosted, so... Well, no, it can be boosted, right? It can be boosted. You can boost your Vanguard by 15, so it's not that terrible. It doesn't have any shield. It doesn't have any shield, so that's not great. But, you know, it's a 15k boost. I mean, I think it's better than at least some of these cards around here, so... Alright, let's change this around a bit. So, I'm gonna put Hydra Rail. I think Lamone. I like Lamone better than Hydra Rail, so let's swap these around. Yeah, let's move this here. So, I think Hydra Rail being 2 and Lamone being 1 is correct. I think Jared deserves its 3rd place spot, because it's actually one of the better cards released from Festival Collection. Wow, we have to choose between Alpheon and Myron. I feel like we might see Myron a bit more than Alpheon, but I feel like these are both kind of very low value cards. I actually have seen Alpheon being played and some people saying it's decent. So I'm going to keep Alpheon higher than Myron. But now we're moving on to the crappier cards. So funnily enough, Twin Press Smasher, I think at 6 is good, because I think it can at least be placed in the back row somewhere and you just smash your opponent's front row repeatedly, like, because I'm comparing it to these 4 other cards that are like, yeah. Corsi, I think, stays at its 7th place. Just because, okay, if you draw it early and kind of boost with it, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But apart from that, it's just like, it's very limited in what it can do. A degraded age, I guess, it's a free retire that the clan doesn't need, but it's definitely better than these two. I think I'm gonna... Maybe this is correct. Maybe this is correct, because Gold Geon is just such a... It's such a low value card. It is such a low value card. In premium, you can use it with Din Drain. well, this rough eating Hungosaurus just I don't know. It's either this at 10 or this as wow. I can't. I don't know. Ooh, not that. Let's not move everything. Let's swap these around. I think Gold Geon, Hungosaurus. Yeah, let's swap these around. It's just, I don't see Hungosaurus being used that much at all. Maybe Gold Geon is like, you'll see it once in a blue moon, but yeah, I think that's it. At least like Degraded Age, man. At least it's free. It's just a discard one, so. Yeah, so this is it. Basically, you only have to really care about the top row. These bottom row cards probably won't see much play in my opinion. But, you know, let's be real here. The real winners here are basically the triggers, right? Because they're all bling bling now. I've seen, look at how bling everything is, right? The trigger lineup, oh, wow, looks nice. Everything else is hollow now. Everything else is hollow, so that's great. This other one, we can see that. So this one, oh wow, look at this Bastion deck, dude. Look at this Bastion deck. It's like all hollow triggers. He's running Alpheon, right? This is Ryu's control build. And then everything else, like Rooks, oh wow, all hollow. So yeah, this is actually insane. Festival Collection, make your stuff shine. Make your stuff shine. yeah, so that's it. You know, capitalism wins. Spend money, get holo triggers, be a boss, and let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Let's close this. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with how good these cards are? Yeah, like I said, the bottom half is harder than the top half. So let me know what you guys think. See you guys in the next video. Yeah, bye.